Good morning. Welcome to the Pitch Track Chronicles. I am Uncle Tats. I am here with Rob. And good morning to everybody in the chat and at feed. What is going on? So the kids came home, and with Cole on the mound, you were pretty confident that we were going to get a win out of it. I want to start off with Cole's outing before we really get to what the kids were able to do. Stanton's 400 home run. We're gonna nibble about everything, but I want to start with Cole because he really is the epitome of an ace. Where it was another game, it was an oddly hot day for this time of year, and you could see the heat was kind of affecting him as the innings went on, and they were battling. Like, they really made him work, but he was able to dig deeper and really get through those innings without causing any damage to his ERA. That's what we pay him for. And you could see at the end he was just not comfortable on the mound. Not because he didn't have his stuff, not because he was they were working counts. Just the heat, you could just see he was done. Normally it would be like, why are you pulling him out so early? But I think it really was the right move to call it a night at that point. Rob, do you feel the same way about how Cole really, aced it out yesterday?
Yeah, and I mean, you said it perfectly there. It was a hot one, you can tell, and he didn't look that comfortable out there, but he was still able to give you 6 really good innings. So that just really tells you about the kind of pitcher that he is. 7 strikeouts. I don't think he had a walk, and I don't know what else he needs to do to prove that he is the ace, to prove that he's worth every penny they signed him for, and to prove that he's the Cy Young. I mean, this guy has battled all season long, and he's been this good. And yeah, I mean, that's the ace, and that's why a lot of us are still very, very upset about how they've treated this team when you have the prime of Garrett Cole and the prime of Aaron Judge. You've been wasting it, and you see this kind of performance on a nightly basis from him, and you're like, how are we not in control of a playoff spot right now? How are we not going to see this guy in October after what he did last year, after what he's doing this year? It's a shame that we probably won't see it, but it does give you a lot of confidence knowing that when we do get to 2024, he's taking the ball opening day. And if he does anything like what he's doing this year, we're going to have a really good shot to get back to the postseason. So Garrett Cole is an absolute ace. He's a monster. And I hope that he gets that Cy Young, because that's what we have to look forward to now is, can Cole get Cy Young? Or are we going to see how the kid's going to perform? But yeah, G. Cole, that's the ace right there. I'm happy to have him. Thrilled to have him.
Yep. Yeah, there was a question brought up on the radio yesterday, and it was, nobody cares about the Cy Young if the Yankees are having a losing season. That can't, the Cy Young shouldn't be something to hold your season on. I disagree. I really think that where everybody is starting to say some of these radio hosts are hitting that narrative where there's no reason to watch the games anymore. If there's no postseason, there's no reason to watch. They're all meaningless games. It doesn't matter. I'm on the opposite end of that spectrum. We talked about it a lot yesterday. This is the perfect time to watch it because you're watching stress-free baseball, and you're still able to see the kids becoming productive. Like I said, we'll get into it in a little while. Stanton's 400th home run, so he hit a milestone, and Cole going for the Cy Young. This is something I think that is going to keep baseball interesting for the rest of the year, rather than everybody jumping ship to the start of the football season. You're still going to have those nights where you're going to be pretty much having 2 TVs on. One watching football, one watching the Yankees. That still is going to be in existence for another year. We got back to 500. Mr. Barrows, so far, so good. It's, we want that 500. We don't. We made this the statement a few weeks ago. Just finish under 500, because otherwise nothing's going to change. Like, we really need to just hit rock bottom and keep falling, right? We already were missing the playoffs. We dropped under 500. We're like, all right, maybe now something will happen. Well, something happened. They called up Dominguez. They called up Wells. They called up Pereira. Peraza's here. Cabrera. You're seeing it, and you're seeing that this team can win because it brought you out of the basement. These kids are bringing you out of the basement. So, yeah, I want to keep that streak going of consecutive winning seasons. I think that's something that we can hold our head on. Do you think? Do you agree? Would you look at it a different way? What do you think?
I never want to finish under 500. Anyone who wants to finish under 500, simply because it's going to send a message to the organization, I think that's ridiculous because missing the playoffs is going to send a message to this organization, and it already has, because think about what they did. Again, they called up a 20-year-old in Dominguez, and after literally a week in AAA. I don't think anyone saw that coming. They called up Pereira after like a month in AAA. They're doing things they haven't done before, and I know they feel the urgency. And even if this team doesn't make the postseason, and we talked about this already, if they do go on some sort of a run where they get close and they finish over 500, even if they finish like at 500 or a game below, because they do still have a tough schedule ahead of them. But the fact that they're already playing better baseball with these kids, and if the month goes really well and these kids are all producing, and you're seeing Judge, if he's starting to hit, Glaber's hitting, and you're seeing the pitching come to life again, it's going to let this organization know this is how we have to operate now. We could still be the New York Yankees and open up our pockets because the guy we really want, but it's time to start trusting the system a little bit more than we already do. And this month has already proven that, because 4 games now we've had Dominguez here, and they didn't play well as yesterday, but for 4 games now we haven't lost, and the offense is clicking. It could happen at any batter. Stanton got the big hit yesterday, but everything's starting to click again. The Yankees are watchable. They're enjoyable. Even in a season as bad as this one has been, people are tuned in. People want to see what happens, and people are invested. So this is an exact, D-Rod. We still have 6 versus the Blue Jays, so that tiny sliver of hope that they could go on a run is still alive, because we are still chasing them. We're also chasing Boston. We have a few games left against them. But look, this month alone is going to be eye-opening for the Yankees. And this season has been eye-opening because, again, they've done things they haven't done. Firing coaches in the middle of the season, admitting the season's been a disaster. They never do that. Hal Steinbrenner saying they might get some outside consultants to look at how they do baseball operations. You never would have heard these things in the past, even in a season where they didn't make the playoffs. They didn't do this in 2016, even though they traded away some pieces, but that's about it. They didn't overhaul the coaching staff. They still kept Girardi on, and they kept basically that entire staff. So this is different, and it's like they're opening their eyes. Like, we have to get with the times here, because if not, then it was going to be another disaster, and the fans were going to lose interest. But now you're seeing people want to tune in. I want to see Dominguez play. I want to see Wells. I want to see Pereira, Peraza, Volpe, Judge. You have about 6 guys in your lineup that you want to actually see. Gleyber Torres, and the energy's there. I never want to finish below 500. So let's go for 85 wins if we can get it. We probably won't, but even if we finish 2 games over, 3 games over, wouldn't that be better than being like, now they have to make changes because they finished 80 and 82? Like, at that point, who cares? What's the difference if you finish 2 games below or at 500? I don't want to be like a 70-win team just so the organization has to make changes. Like, they should already be making these changes, because the New York Yankees should never be in this position that they're in right now. So I think they know that's the case, and that's why you're seeing them do things differently, and it's been giving us confidence that 2024 will be different.
Yeah, it's, the other thing that I don't think, I think 90% of the talk of, the finishing on the 500 and all that shit, I think it was more frustration than actually what people wanted, and that's the fun thing about baseball, or sports in general. Moods can cause you to order, to be so, you have no option but to become hypocritical against yourself. Because we're, 2 weeks ago we were like, you know what, just fucking tear the whole thing down. Just don't even bother anymore. And now, you get that little bit of life, and you're like, all right, I'm back. That passion to watch the team is back. So that's the ebbs and flows of being a sports fan. Especially when you're a highly competitive, fan of a team. The Yankees are not going to they're not going to wave white flags. I don't think they did. Cashman may have given the narrative that, it was just all over. We saw Hector on his streams on the Morning Brew with the white towel waving it around, at points during the year. In the moment, it wasn't an exaggeration. It wasn't an over exaggerating. It was just the way the situation was. It was the way the team was playing. You're starting to see the sweep of the Astros was like, coming off of life support for the fan base. Now everybody's back. Because if they would have brought these kids up and then say that it was the latter where, the other way around, where we still got swept by the Astros, is the mood still this? Are we still this optimistic for the rest of the month? Most likely not. Yeah, we're going to see the kids get some work, and they'll figure it out. They're going to have some learning curves. They got that call up, and they are making the most of it. And I think that's all we ask when they bring up these kids. All you can ask for is just give it 100%, and these kids are doing that. And like we said, there's going to be the hiccups. They're going to have games where it's just not their day. That's part of it. Look at everything that Volpe went throughout the whole season. With the ups and downs. The ebbs and flows, however you want to word it. These kids will be fine. Let's enjoy. Like I said, enjoy it. Let's just enjoy it day by day, because you don't know what we still don't know what's going to happen in the off season. What stupid moves or what mistakes Cashman's going to make, because he's always bound to make one. And you hope that's not it. What I'm curious about, and I want to get your opinion and everybody's take in the chat. Does this team climbing out of the basement and being, if they finish above 500 and really just have a solid rest of the season, does Boone's job get saved? Does Cashman get a whole new lease where he's not on the hot seat anymore? How do what is this outside organization that's going to be breaking everything down? What do they report back to Hal, saying, all right, look, you guys already solved your own problems. You don't need us consulting anymore. Like, how do you feel this is going to go into the offseason as far as Boone's job security and Cashman's job security?
I don't think Boone's going anywhere. I don't think he was going to get fired in the first place. It would have been it would have to be a catastrophic fail. Like, we'd have to probably just lose out the rest of the season, even if we didn't call up the kids. And yeah, I've been seeing this pop up too, Damian. That tells me that Cashman's job isn't necessarily the safest. He may not be on the hot seat, but I feel like Hal is starting to really be like sick of his shit, because even though he gave him a 4-year extension, Hal's name has been dragged through the mud this year. And it's been like way in the past, but we were giving Hal a very, very, very long leash because of the Aaron Judge re-signing, because we know it was Hal that got that done. So a lot of people were just like, let's give Hal a break here. Let's not mention him too much. But now, because the season's gone as bad as it has up until this past week, a lot of people are like dragging it this whole season. They've been dragging his name to the mud. Hal is not his father. He's not George. He doesn't have that killer instinct. He doesn't care. I've seen that get thrown around a lot. He simply doesn't care. He just wants to make money. Oh, he's desecrated the pinstripes. He's desecrated his father's name. He doesn't care. He's pissing all over his grave. Whatever they've been saying about him. He doesn't want to hear that, because truth be told, this is not his fault. he certainly hasn't helped the issues, but he's been given, everyone wants to call him cheap and all this stuff. This is not all his fault. And I think he doesn't want to keep hearing his name brought up every single second, because a lot of people are just going to go out there and say, this is him, this is him, this is Hal, you got to do something, Hal, you got to do something. Well, now he's doing something. If that's people are saying that Hal was the one who wanted to call up the kids, Cashman didn't want to do it. But at the same time, Hal is also the one that didn't want to make trades at the deadline, and Cashman did. So there's like a lot of dissension between the two of them. And I really think Hal's like regretting the 4-year extension. I really do at this point. I don't think he's going to fire him after 1 year, but if next year goes poorly, you might see him get let go. But I feel like Hal at this point is like, all right, I still got you for 3 more years, but you're getting help, because Cashman can't overrule Hal. We know how that works. He can't do it. So if Hal says, I'm getting outside consultants, I might hire 2 more former GMs to be your assistants at this rate. Fuck it. Whatever it takes to get this team back to where it used to be and not being out of the playoffs and being in contention every single year to win the division and get to the postseason without having to worry about a wild card. Because that's what the Yankees always were. Even when they weren't winning championships, you're like, well, the Yankees are going to win the East and they're going to be a threat in the postseason. Even in the early 2000s when we were getting bounced out in the first round, we were still winning the division. Like that didn't change. So Hal knows he needs to make some moves here, because he's going to continue to hear his name be brought up. And he might say he doesn't listen to the news and all that stuff, but he knows. He definitely knows what's going on. Exactly. He knows. So maybe he's sensitive, whatever you want to say about it, but no one wants to keep hearing their name be talked about in a bad way. It's like if you were running the team and said, fire Bobby Tats every 15 or sell the team, Tats. You wouldn't want to hear that every 2 seconds, right? I wouldn't want to hear it.
No, you're making adjustments to change the narrative.
No one wants to hear their name get dragged to the mud. You don't give. I'm just going to tune out the noise. No, you're going to get pissed. No one wants to hear themselves get talked. No one wants to hear their name be drugged through the fucking mud like that. So I know he's mad, and I know he cares, and I know he wants to make changes. So I'm glad that Hal is stepping up, because that's what we've been asking for. All we've been asking for is Hal needs to make something happen, or nothing is going to change. Well, now he's doing that, and things have changed, and now we're all invested again. So maybe this is a good sign that Hal is finally going to take more charge about the baseball operations.
Damian put a great comment in the chat. So, I feel Hal didn't want to make trades because he didn't trust Cashman to make the right ones. I think a lot of the people in the chat are agreeing with you, Damian. That is a very interesting statement. And I actually think that I really think that to be true. You can see that we're always talking about, managers losing the trust of the players, vice versa. I think now you're starting to see Hal losing his trust in Cashman. I think this season, where the expectations were so high and things went so wrong, Hal's like, you know what? Like you said, I'm tired of my name being, it's like, keep your name out of keep my name out of your mouth. He wants to change that narrative. And if this is what it took, then so be it. But yeah, I think, you're right. I think Hal is regretting the Cashman extension. They had, it's almost like keeping a manager 1 season too long, or getting rid of the manager 1 season too early. This offseason, the second that you realize that you had to call and get the Judge deal done from your vacation, because Hal was about to fuck it up, right there. And I think we said it. They should have just, at that point, let Cashman, don't even let him get involved anymore.
He should have never have been extended. If they want to do a 1 year thing, 1 more year with him and Boone, or at least if you did extend him, make it to where it matches up with the rest of Boone's contract. But we said that going into last season that they should have just had them on a year-by-year basis. I understood it because the team did win 99 games and go to the ALCS last year. Look, I know it was a terrible series, but I've said this countless times. When you're one of the last 4 teams standing, it's not a terrible season. It's a failure in your goal, but it's not a terrible season. So if you wanted to give it one more ride, fine, give Cashman one more year. But 4 years was ridiculous, and I don't think anyone will argue that. 4 was ridiculous. 2 might have been the max you gave him, but they were operating under a handshake agreement at first, and then they went to a 4-year extension. I'm like, how do you go from take it day by day, literally day by day, minute by minute, to 4 more years? Like that was a weird thing. It's like when you a president, you don't want to reelect him, and he gets 4 more years. And that's, we keep calling Brian Cashman a politician. There you go, 4 more years. So I still don't think he's going to get fired. I don't think he will get fired. Maybe after 2 seasons, maybe after 3, actually, after 2025, which is a long ways away. But I don't think it's going to be that bad next year. And absolutely, you see, this is why I can't agree with a lot of things my dad tells me says. There's no planet where Buck Showalter should be the new manager of the Yankees. He just failed miserably with the highest payroll in the history of the sport for 2 seasons with a superstar Mets team. This Mets team is going to win the World Series. You got to believe it's the amazing Mets. Where are the Mets now? If you hire Buck Showalter, you're going backwards. I'm taking Aaron Boone over Buck Showalter. I said it. I said it last year. I said it 2 years ago when the Mets brought him in, and I'm going to stick by it. Buck Showalter is not a manager that's going to win you a World Series. He's a fine manager for a team that's trying to get somewhere, like he was for us. But until he left, then what happened? He left. Torrey came on. The team won the championship. He went to Arizona. He left. Next year, team won a championship. I'm sorry, Buck Showalter ain't the fucking answer. And Jeter as the GM, I know people want to see it. If he wants to get involved in the front office, sure, but there's no way he's working with Brian Cashman. And there's also no way that Cashman's going to let him work with him. And if Cashman takes a step back, it's going to be too much clashing. And I don't think Jeter wants to do that anyway. And I don't want to see Jeter in that role, because God forbid he fails, and we're going to be talking about get rid of Jeter, where no one ever wants to say that. We've talked about this before. So the idea of Jeter in the front office is years down the line, maybe when Cashman finally does hang it up.
I'd like to see where if you have to hire a new GM, when that day comes, hopefully sooner rather than later, right? Because I'm glad that the decision was made, but like Damian said, it was most likely more Hal than Cashman. I just don't have any faith in Cashman to get the job done. There's nothing this season. They can make it to the postseason and win the whole World season. My opinion on Cashman's not going to change. Great guy, right? Does with charity work and everything that he does, awesome. Kudos, good for you. You cannot run a team anymore. The game has passed him by. What do you think about if they were to make a decision to bring in a former manager to be a GM? And my thought process to that is, I think that would be the best type of GM to have in an organization, because they understand what managers, they already have an idea of what, they know what managers go through. They've already had a lot of experience dealing with minor league players, the grind of, making the decisions to call players up and down. I think that might be something outside of the box, because I don't think you see that a lot, where a manager goes into a GM role.
It'd be a pretty big leap to go. Like, he has to have some sort of front office experience before getting that job.
I'm not saying from manager right to GM. I mean, there's got to be, you got to be an assistant first. But yeah. I think that would be an interesting way to go, because I think they would be able to look at things through a different lens.
Well, I think even though he wasn't a manager, he was just a player. I think that's why a lot of people do want Jeter, because he had so much experience, and he was so close with Torrey, who's probably the best manager in this team's history. So if anyone knows the sport top to bottom, it'd be him. And obviously he knew what he had in Kim Ng, because he stole her from us and took her to Miami with him. So he knew what he was doing. And I think that's why a lot of people do want Jeter in the GM spot, but people forget he wasn't the GM of the Marlins. He was making a lot of decisions, but he wasn't the GM. So it'd be a much different thing if to have him be the one making those calls, because then you're talking about a completely different look in the front office, which I think we do need. But Elliot brought it up, or Spencer brought it up earlier in the chat. Like, he doesn't want to be part of a potential failure. Like, he was already part of that with Miami, and it didn't go his way, but he got out of there. But Miami's been fine this year. They're making a playoff push. They got a chance to make the postseason. He just wanted them to spend more, and they had some disagreements, so he walked out of it. I don't think he wants to go into a situation where, if it doesn't work out with him as the GM, people are going to want him gone. And I don't think anyone wants to look at Derek Jeter in that sort of negative light. So I certainly wouldn't want to have to ever say fire Jeter or let Jeter go or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I don't know when it comes to the next GM. It'd probably be like someone from someone from Atlanta's front office. You can poach like their assistant GM or something like that, or even from Houston, because they win all the time. If it's a former manager, I don't know. Like, I can't think of one off the top of my head. I know someone brought up Francona. That's as good. Maybe Joe Madden. If Madden were to get into the front office aspect of the game, I don't think he's a great manager anymore, but he does have a good mind for the sport. But then again, Aaron Boone is also talked about as a baseball guy, so maybe he should be the GM. That's a joke. That's a joke. Take me seriously on that.
What's going on, TC? No, I just, sometimes, you have to think outside the box. Actually, those are the only two guys I can think of that would be able to make that adjustment, would either be Madden or Francona. You're not going to do it with Buck. If just in case, for argument's sake, that he wants to come back into the Yankee organization in some capacity. Jeter's not going to do it. He was, he's got it. He's enjoying his own thing. Yeah, and he's not going to go from owning a team. He wants to stay around the Yankee organization without being able to get hit with a black eye. I think that's just what he's just going to kind of, hang out for a little while, and then he'll go back to doing his own thing. He'll come back to the organization, do some work with them, and then go back to his family life. And I think that's the best thing for him. It's the best thing for him. It's the best thing for the organization, and it's the best thing for the fans. Which is why, like, when Mattingly was brought up as a possible manager, I love Mattingly. He's one of my favorite players. You don't want to, if you love somebody that much, you don't want to put him in a position where you're gonna have to fire him. I think it just causes too much bad blood. So just leave. Look at everything with Reggie Jackson. Nobody wants him around anymore. Whether I know he's with the Astros, which of all teams to go to, asshole. But it doesn't. It's not the right move.
Ron was right, though. Ron did tell us. Ron Blomberg told us that Reggie wasn't the greatest person in the world. Like, he was.
No.
He told us that. If anyone didn't see that, it was a while back. Go watch the episode where we interviewed Ron Blomberg. He mentions Reggie Jackson. I'm not saying I don't know. I don't know Reggie Jackson personally. Obviously, I'm not going to go out and flat out call him a dick or anything. But he wants nothing to do with the Yankee organization, and he is one of the great players of this team's history. Like, you don't think about the 70s Yankees without thinking about Reggie Jackson. So, again, we don't want to see people fail, but this goes back to earlier talk, like, get Posada in as a manager, or bring in O'Neill as the hitting coach, Cone as the pitching. It's like everyone wants us to bring the entire Yankees team into the coaching staff, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work. Like, I'm glad Pettit being a consultant is fine. That's great. If they want to bring in Cone as like a pitching consultant too, great. If Paul O'Neill wants to give some tips, but I didn't really agree with it at first, and I was skeptical about it, but secretly, or maybe not, it's kind of under the radar, but Sean Casey's doing some pretty good things. Oswaldo Cabrera, no one's really talked about how good he's been post All-Star break. His numbers have shot up. Volpe obviously has been great. DJ's been back to his old self. Torres has been really good since that move. So a lot of guys have benefited from it. So it doesn't always have to be a former Yankee. You just have to get a good baseball mind. And if it so happens to be that good baseball mind is a former Yankee, then great. But we don't want to see our past heroes become the villain. It's like my favorite player of all time will always be Bernie Williams. I would hate if Bernie Williams was on this coaching staff right now and I'm like, fire the staff, fire everybody, because I do want to see a complete overhaul except for Matt Blake. I would never, ever want to say Bernie Williams needs to be let go. I don't want to ever have to say that. It's like, I don't want to have to say that about Jeter, or you don't want to say that about Mattingly, or my dad's favorite player is Thurman Munson. If he was a coach, obviously that can't happen, but no one will want to say that about their favorite players. So you can't, it's a difficult thing to say, like, bring them in, it's going to work, when it's not always going to work. That's why the former greats rarely go back to their team as like a coach or even like in the front office. Like, remember Larry Bird? He didn't, in basketball, he didn't go own the Celtics. He went to the Pacers. He bought the Pacers and he went and ran that team. Michael Jordan went and bought the Hornets. Like, no one wants to see the heroes of their team fail. I'm not saying that they all would fail, but if you're talking about bringing in everybody from the 90s dynasty to be a part of this coaching staff, God forbid we miss the playoffs with these guys at the helm, you're going to be like, fire Tino, fire Paulie, fire Bernie, David Wells, David Cohn, El Duque. They all need to go, and no one wants to do that.
It's we could have a million ways to there's name after name after name that can be put out there, but yeah, we can't bring back the whole 98 team and expect them to be the coach, manager, GM, owner, pitching coach, bat boy, whatever. It's not going to work. Not all of them are going to want to do it. I don't think they already spent their careers traveling. You're only going to get a handful of guys that really have it in them to just keep that traveling grind as they get older. It's not, those guys are not easy to find. Especially all on one championship, team. They're not all coming back to travel. They're not going to do the grind. It's just the reality of it. I think, like FJ said, I think Cohn's the only one that really is outright saying he has interest in being a coach or a manager. I think he did interview for the pitching coach. And when he didn't get the job, I kind of think it was a breath of fresh air to put him back in the booth with Kay, with him and O'Neill. I think that it suits him really well. But also, David Cohn is very into the analytics as well, which is something that we're always screaming about. They need to scale back from, but it's so you're gonna get rid of one guy that's too doesn't question the analytics, and you're gonna bring in a guy that's even more so not gonna question the analytics because he's analytically driven. You're just gonna get the same guy, and you don't want to put don't forget David Cohn with his winning caliber. The perfect game. You don't want to put. I don't like hiring former players for that reason because you don't want to put any bad light on them. Let their legend be on the field. Don't tarnish it. I think the only one that really escaped that was Girardi. But it's not like he grew up through through the whole organization. So. Yeah. Anyway, back to the game. We're going to just keep going down this rabbit hole. Number 400, Giancarlo Stanton. Garbage time home run, Rob?
Oh, yeah, he's a terrible baseball player. All he does is hit garbage time home runs. That's I was like, 2 years ago? And I've been saying that constantly, but I hate that Stanton has been a shell of himself this year. But we saw it, like he just needs to stay healthy, and it's a real shame that he can't. I'm hoping that they do something this offseason with him in terms of maybe he gets back on the yoga that he did 2 years ago. Remember he did that for a season. He was healthy. and he was great, carried the team. So maybe he needs to do something like that. The Yankees just have to keep him healthy, and even if he turns into, let's say, a Joey Gallo-esque hitter with low average but a good on base and OPS and slugging is all good, because he's a walking 30 home run season when he's healthy. And if that's what he's going to be for the next 4 years, and that's fine, but he just needs to stay on the field. And you're seeing, like, he hits mammoth shots whenever he wants, really. Like, if he makes contact, it's going to go a long way. And I'm glad that he hit it in the Bronx. He got the cheer. He got a well-deserved curtain call. So I just can't help but think about, if this dude had stayed healthy throughout his Yankee tenure, it'd probably be one of the best trades Cashman ever made. But it's not because his production has been so bad, but when he's been on the field, he's been good, except for this year. We've seen the spurts of it this season, but I'm very happy for him. I'm still always going to continue to support Stanton. He's still one of my favorite players on this team, and he always will be. I'm glad he did it. I'm glad we had something to look forward to this season. And it took a little bit of the pressure, I think, off Dominguez, because did Dominguez's hit come after the Stanton homer, or did it come before?
It came before.
Did it come before?
Now I'm confused.
Maybe someone can let us know in the chat there.
Yeah, I think it was. You know what? I think it was after.
But it was a nice thing to see, because all the chatter was about, we got to watch Dominguez, and maybe we'll see Wells tonight, or we're going to see all this. And it's like a couple of the vets stepped up yesterday. Like Cole had the big start. Torres had a big hit. LeMahieu led off the bottom of the first with a homer. Okay, it came before. So thank you guys for that. Joan and Medina. Oh, Damian saying it came after. So nobody freaking knows. All right. Somebody confirm this.
The production from the veterans really gave the assist to the kids to be a little more relaxed at the plate.
Yeah.
All right. We'll just split it down the middle.
Yeah. And you need that mix. That's what we've been saying. Like, it's okay to keep these guys around. Like, I don't know what the future for Stanton holds. I don't think he's going anywhere, but there is that slight chance that he does get moved. Same thing with DJ. But if you mix a lineup with DJ and Stanton, and next year Rizzo's going to be back, who got shut down for the season. So you can mix those type of veterans with the young kids, and that's how you win ball games. Like, that's what the 90s were. Like, O'Neal was a vet. Bernie Williams was technically a veteran at that point, because he already been in the league for a few years before the core four came in. And then you mix those younger players, and then you got some more veterans, and you had just an overall good team. And that's what you need to do. Like, DJ LeMahieu can still hit. Stanton can still hit for power. Rizzo, when he's not concussed, is still a damn good player. And obviously, Aaron Judge, he's the veteran he's the leader of this team, and he's only 31. So he's not necessarily this old grizzled vet. And you mix that with Torres, who's 26 next year. You have Volpe and Dominguez and Wells and Peraza and all these kids. So that's how you win games. That's how you build a good team, because you're not like the Orioles who are budget conscious and they're playing small market. The Yankees don't have to play small market. You can afford to pay those veterans and still use the youth and have a really good balanced lineup. And that's how teams win. That's how the Astros were able to win and keep winning for so long. That's how the Braves are doing it. They got a bunch of their own guys, but they brought in some really good veteran bats to amplify that team and make them even better. And look what it's done for them. The Dodgers, that's how you win. So it's nice to see the vets take some big, get some big hits. And then, of course, you see Dominguez get the big hit. Yesterday, he got himself a double. Pereira had a hit. That's how you build a team. It's how you spend wisely on the veterans. And then you bring up the kids when they're ready. If they can help you win, you bring them up. It's as simple as that. And I wish the Yankees would have done this sooner. But just seeing the way that Stanton and LeMahieu contributed to the win yesterday with Cole on the mound, it's like these are still the guys that are going to help you win a lot of games. And then you infuse the youth with it, and all of a sudden you got an energized team. Because look at the energy it's brought to these guys. Like how miserable, and I know my dad has brought this up to me several times on the phone, how miserable did they look in the dugout 2-3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
They showed every single player when we were losing to Boston just looked like they just didn't think they were dead inside. And now everyone's happy. They're jumping around. They're having a good time. Yeah, we beat the Tigers. Woo, whoop-de-doo. But they're having fun. This is still a kid's game. even though they're getting paid monster money to play it, it's still a kid's game, and they're enjoying the hell out of it. And we won the game, like Joan just said. We won the game, and they're having fun. So that's how you get life back in some players that look kind of lifeless. Is you inject the youth and you get them amplified to play the game again.
Yeah, Stanton he gets too much of the heat. I want to go back, rewind it a little bit. We're getting these. His demeanor towards the press, or not his demeanor, his positivity with the press is how I want to word this. That's why it drives us crazy when he gets criticized so badly, because he's a guy. No matter no matter where his production is, he never shies away from the media. And not that it doesn't. If the move is there to move, if the opportunity came to move on from him, I think at this point you do what you have to do. I don't think he'll ever want to go away from New York. I think he really enjoys being a Yankee. He's handled the pressure. He hasn't gotten nasty. But what he said after the home, on the post game, getting the curtain call, people, a lot of people want to bash the Yankee fans for being the most vile, mean, we're the worst fan base. Here's a guy that nobody wants on the team, is not having a good season when he's available, right? And they still gave him his due. Yankee fans, whether it's their own player or the player on the opposing team, we always will recognize a milestone, big or small. It's not that's where New York has its shows its class. Look, I know I haven't given the fans a lot to cheer about, but the curtain call meant so much to him. Yeah, and he wasn't even sure if he was. I don't think he didn't even think about going out there to tip his cap, but he did. Once he realized everybody was waiting for him. I think it was Pereira or Peraza. Held back from going into the batter's box to give him a chance. Volpe
took his batter's time out.
Yeah, and good for the kids for recognizing that. That just shows that they're all in this together. They all are lockstep with what these games are meaning right now. The other side of it. Right, Rose talking about how with the tip of the cap and everything. Let's talk a little bit before we close it out. Miguel Cabrera, right? How lucky was baseball to have Miguel Cabrera? You talk about one of the most liked opponents in the game. I think him and Beltray are two of my favorite non-Yankees. They were just. You could just tell that they never forgot it was a kid's game, like you were saying before.
Unless you're Elliot, who doesn't think it is. Look at him. Look at him in the chat there. How's it not a kid's game? It's not a kid's game. How's it not a kid's game? You're hitting a ball with a stick and you're running around. It's a kid's game. That's why they have the Little League World Series highlighted every single freaking year. Yeah. You don't see the Little League World Series for football or basketball. They don't do that stuff. No other sport has that. It's baseball. It's a kid's game. Come on, Elliot Spencer, whatever your name is.
I really hope you're kidding. Because Spencer, when we were at the Legends Day, right, having to catch on the field, come on, it was like being a kid again. Playing in the backyard. So get out of here with that bullshit. But Cabrera, though, I say, I think I said this on the Morning Brew chat yesterday. The game's going to miss him. What do you guys think? We all know first ballot. I mean, he's got to be. If he's not a first ballot, then there is none. There should never be a first ballot again. He's done everything right. Not for him, not just for the team. He's done everything right for the game, and it's just a shame that this is his final season.
Yeah, and obviously, you never want to see like some of the greats of the sport deteriorate, but he's certainly not the player he once was. Obviously, that's how aging is. That's how regression works. But he is one of the best players that I've ever been able to see in terms of pure ability at the plate. Never was excellent defensively, but it didn't matter because he was constantly hitting 300 plus, 30 homers, Triple Crown winner, I think twice in a row, which I don't think you ever said. I think, did he do it? I don't know if he did it twice in a row, but he came close to doing it. But 1,000% a Hall of Famer, 1,000% a first ballot. If he doesn't get first ballot, then the entire Hall of Fame process needs to be completely torn apart and redone. So, well, I don't know. A lot of people now they're coming to conversation about baseball not being a kid's game, but it is a kid's game. You're not gonna change my mind. It's still like every game. It's a kid's game. It is. Everything's a kid. You see so many kids playing it. Yeah, just you bring in alcohol and gambling to it, but gambling ruins everything. I fucking hate gambling. Hate it. Whatever. I'm not going to get into that. Miguel Cabrera, Hall of Famer, absolute legend, and I'm glad that we were able to watch a really good player. I hate that he helped us lose a World Series and back in 2003, but I'm glad I was able to see his career from start to finish. He's going to be one of the players that from our generation that you've been able to say, I watched his entire career. He's one of the greats.
Yeah, he's really in that. When you think about players that every fan of every team embraced and enjoyed watching, it's a very short list of players. Cabrera is at the top. He is that guy. I think Mariano is the other one. I want to say Jeter, but a lot of people did not like Jeter. They always, because that whole thing, he overrated, and if he was on a different, like they're always trying to throw shade at him. Nobody throws shade at Mariano. I think he's on that list. If you guys think of anybody else from another team where they were just, really loved throughout the sport,
Ichiro.
Ichiro's a good one. Yeah. So this is interesting. That kind of.
I never understood that about Jeter though. Like if he played for another team, nobody would care. If he put up those numbers with the fucking Pittsburgh Pirates, he's still a Hall of Famer. Like people act like he didn't help the Yankees win those championships, like he had nothing to do with them. There's a reason he was called Captain Clutch, Mr. November. His postseason stats speak for themselves. Yeah, the Yankees teams in the 90s were stacked, but you don't act like he wasn't like the catalyst of a lot of those wins. You take Derek Jeter off those 90s teams, did they win all those championships? They probably still win a couple. Don't get me wrong. They were still a stacked team, but how many big moments was Jeter a part of, whether he was starting a rally or making a big defensive play? Like, I'm sorry. I know I'm going to sound like a Yankee homer. I got his name right here on the freaking top of my computer, but to say that he's overrated because defensive analytics, the dude was a consistent 300 hitter. He's top of the order, whether he was batting first or he was batting second. His defense was great. Before he cracked his ankle, he was leading the league in hits at the age of 37, 36 or something like that. Like doing some absurd stuff. He was one of the best players to ever play this sport. I'm sorry. Everyone wants to say he's overrated because of his defensive range. Shut up with that. He made the plays he needed to make it short. He was universally loved by everybody in this fan base. And there were a lot of people that respected the hell out of Derek Jeter because you wouldn't have seen him get the farewell tour he did from every other team in baseball. Even the Red Sox, who we know the Yankees gave Ortiz a farewell. The Red Sox gave Jeter a farewell because you respect really good players. And as I know Ortiz cheated, but he was still a fucking thorn in our side every time we played him. And Jeter was a thorn in the Red Sox side. And there's that mutual respect for when you're playing and you're going in competition. Anyone who says Jeter is overrated, they're from a newer generation that didn't watch him play. Go back and watch the dude play. Go watch those 90s seasons and watch Jeter consistently be a part of every big moment as much as possible. Like the flip. Does 2001 happen without Derek Jeter? I know we didn't win that year, but think about that. Think about leading off a game. What was it, game 6 of the World Series or game 5 with the home run, first pitch? The smoke from the fireworks is still going off, and Jeter just starts the game off with a bang, literally. Like, come on. He's overrated. How is he overrated? If he would have done it with a different team. No. He could have done that with any other team in baseball. That's a Hall of Fame career. Even if you take away those championships, 3,000 plus hits, a career 300 hitter, everything he did, that is a Hall of Famer. Maybe not unanimous, but the World Series certainly helped, but he's a huge part of those championship wins. I'm not going to let anyone slander Derek Jeter like this anymore. It's ridiculous.
No, if Donald was here, who's on a little bit of a sabbatical as he's relocating, but Donald would have a field day on this one. But no, I hate the slander on him. I really do. It's just such bullshit. It's unnecessary. To say that it would be regardless. Yeah, retire. Look at who was it? Was it Bogarts who insisted on wearing number 2? On the Red Sox. I think it was Bogarts who wore 2 because Derek Jeter was. Because of Derek Jeter.
He inspired a whole generation.
Yup. A lot, exactly. So everybody tried to do that, to throw to first. They're all trying, you could imitate them. It's like people trying to slam dunk like Jordan. It may look like him, but it ain't him. Throwing a ball like Montana. There are things that are defined by one person and imitated by everyone. Derek Jeter was that athlete. Sorry. That's the way it is. But it's going to wrap things up for us today. We've had a great time talking with everybody. The conversations kind of went all over the place. But, hey, that's live streaming for you. But we appreciate everybody in the chat. Rob, great show. Looking forward to when was it? What the hell is today? Wednesday? So Friday, we're doing these back to back. Doing the show yesterday really threw me off. I kept forgetting what day of the week it was. But NFE, FJ, retired war vet, Mr. Barrows, D-Rod, you got Medina. I'm forgetting a bunch of people. Spencer.
Spencer.
TC. Grace. How's it going, Grace? Thanks for hanging out. But this has been the Pinstripe Chronicles. I'm Uncle Tats, here with Rob. And as I always say, wear those pinstripes of pride and play hard.